Good evening, everyone, and thank you for joining our chapel today. Can we assume a position of prayer to start? Mighty Father, we thank you for this another day and for bringing us here. We ask as we go into this chapel session that we invite your presence, O God, that it will be here with us. Lord, we thank you for the opportunity to discuss these topics in this time, dear Father. Thank you for each of these students who took time to prepare, O God. I pray that you'll be with each one of them and you'll bring to their remembrance all that they have researched and studied. And at the end of it all, may your name be glorified. We pray that you'll bring those who are on their way, that they will come in time to benefit. And we thank you again for even our online viewers. And at the end of it all, may your name be glorified, I pray. And everybody say, in Jesus' name, amen.
Good afternoon, everyone. All right, let's try that one more time. Good afternoon, everyone. All right. So this evening, chapel will be hosted by the School of Business and Entrepreneurship. Rumor has it, it's the best school on the university's campus. If you are one to believe rumors, then those rumors may just be correct. Today we're going to be focusing on an important issue in our country, something that as a student you may feel doesn't apply to you, but it definitely does, and you will feel the impact of it throughout your life. We're going to be focusing on the budget. But before we focus on the budget, we just want to have a quick devotional thought. And to start us off, I want to ask a question, right? What do you think is the most expensive thing that has ever been sold on earth? The most expensive thing. I have a small prize for who could get it correct. The most expensive thing ever sold. An airplane? Wrong. Anybody else? Anybody? The most expensive thing ever sold. Let me give you a clue. You may find it in a museum. The Mona Lisa? Now that's a half correct answer. The Mona Lisa is the most expensive, the highest valued thing in the world, but no one has ever bought it because France doesn't want to sell it, right? So the most expensive thing ever sold is a painting called Salvador Mundi, and it was sold for $450 million at an auction. Now what's really funny about this painting is that it was rediscovered in the 1980s, and it was rediscovered in a random art collection, and the person who rediscovered it bought it for $2,000, right? So he bought it for $2,000 and then was able to sell it for $450 million. Now that's a rather great return on investment, I believe so. Rather great. Do you know what's the most expensive car ever sold? Nobody. It's the 1955 Mercedes-Benz 300. And that was sold for $142 million. So these are a lot of money to get these things. So it made me start to wonder, what is one thing you value most? So think about it. What is one thing you value most, and how much would you pay for it? Right? One thing you value most, and how much would you pay for it? Now in the book of Matthew chapter 13, verse 44 to 46, we see a story that examines worth and value of things. Jesus said, "The kingdom of heaven is like a treasure hidden in a field. When a man found it, he hid it again, and then in his joy went and sold all that he had and bought that field. Again, the kingdom of heaven is like a merchant looking for fine pearls. When he found one of great value, he went away and sold everything he had and bought it." Now, when we think about this text, a lot of times we think about all the things that we give up for Jesus, right? Jesus is this great prize, this amazing person and we give up so much for God. Perhaps it's our family, perhaps sometimes our jobs, some relationships. We give up and sacrifice for Jesus. But I want us to consider the God side of things, right? There's this quote that I love from this poet called Propaganda. And he said, "But worth, value, and beauty is not determined by innate quality, but by the length by which the owner would go to possess it." Now, when we look at it, God being the person walking through the market or walking on the field, saw you as a pearl of great price, a treasure worth enough that he will sacrifice his own life so that you could potentially have life. You are that pearl of great price. You are that treasure in the field that God sold everything to acquire. So my question is, what is the most expensive thing ever bought on planet Earth? The correct answer to that question is you, because you cost the life of God himself, right? And that's our devotional for today. Have a good one.
The School of Business and Entrepreneurship presents the Trinidad and Tobago National Budget Discussion, a business student perspective. Every year, the Trinidad and Tobago National Budget is read, and we listen to revenue and expenditure, debt, and how we manage our resources and our assets. What's going to happen with prices and taxes? These are discussed every year. And the implications of these are very, very, very essential because it impacts the quality and the standard of life by which we live by here in Trinidad and Tobago, and by extension, its ripples effects in the Caribbean. We are excited this evening to present the following students who put forward a perspective: Antalya, Hannah, Shanique, Eve, Kenisha, Israel, Lady Serenity, Jamal, and Savita. We are happy that they are here and they are going to present to you perspectives for your consideration. We are very grateful to Dr. Javel and Mr. Winchester, Mrs. Francois, Ms. Diosing, and Dr. Eaton. Thank you, co-host Zion, for being here this afternoon as well. We welcome you to a discussion of the Trinidad and Tobago national budget. What's happening with national security and health and agriculture and food and other segments of our budget? What's going on? Listen to the students and they're going to give you a perspective. Thank you, Dr. Archer, for being here, or Provost for supporting. Ladies and gentlemen, once again, welcome to another production of the Accounting and Finance and Economics Department of the School of Business and Entrepreneurship. My name is Sherry Lindy Gall, and I am the Interim Dean of the School of Business and Entrepreneurship. I am sorry that I can't be here this afternoon to be live to benefit, but bet your bottom dollar, I'll be looking. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to a discussion of the Trinidad and Tobago National Budget.
Good afternoon, everyone. I think I hear there's someone out there, but I'm not so sure. Good afternoon, everybody. Oh, there you are. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for showing up. And I think those who haven't come are going to miss a very, very important program this afternoon. Every year, the School of Business has this presentation, which is so important for all of us. It's a presentation of the Trinidad and Tobago budget from their perspective. But it's not just for Trinidadians or Tobagonians. It gives you a perspective of what the Caribbean is dealing with. And it's therefore important that you pay attention and get some perspective as to how governments within our region, which many of you obviously belong to, deal with the very important elements of financing and providing for our communities here in the Caribbean. We have a intelligent group of people sitting behind me. I can tell just looking at them. They're all very, very smart. They understand numbers. They'll soon be graduating and move on to bigger and better things. But they want to lend their opinions, their understandings to what we do here. So I want to extend to you all a welcome. Thank you for coming, and tell your friends who hadn't shown up here this afternoon that they missed one of the most important assembly events that we would have for this year. Welcome and thank you very much.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. So it's my pleasure to introduce the host and participant today. So we have Dr. Javed, who is the Acting Chair of Accounting, Finance, and Econ. We also have Zion Thompson, who is a management student at the School of Business. And with us, we have our candidates. We have Hannah Walcott, Shanika Thomas, Eve Duncan, Kanisha Smith, Lady Serenity Roberts, Jamal Pompey, Sarita Moria. We have two other participants who is on their way, Antalya Moray and Israel Felix. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon.
We are glad to be here to share with you all what our students within School of Business would have learned and understood from the budget. So this afternoon, we begin with asking a general question that each student could respond to. Well, first of all, the budget, in my view, if you all would have, well, you all would have, but if the rest of the audience may have, we know that election is in the air. Election is expected to take place next year, please God. And for me, it sounded like an election budget. It had some goodies in place. And one such goodie was the increase in the minimum wage, specifically for the public sector, moving the minimum wage from $20.50 to $22.50. It, however, was not put in place for the private sector, so it's not a national increase, but just for the public sector. What are your views on this?
All right, so good afternoon, everybody. Based on the budget reading that was given to the nation, it would be easy for a person to see it as a goodie, right? But coming from a family background, I know that parents generally take consideration in not showing favoritism. So to say that it's just a goodie for the public sector, it sounds as though it's targeted political maneuver or move to gain favor, whatever the case is. But one of the things that I know based on the budget is that there are major considerations that need to be taken, that being the ability to sustain the economy when a budget is proposed. And so the public sector is different from the private sector. The number of individuals working in each sector varies. And so my thoughts are that the main aim of the budget was surrounding rather the government's ability to sustain, if anything, the public sector for now, and then I believe later down some considerations will be made to facilitate the entire nation or the private sector. So that's it for me.
All right, thank you. I was supposed to say give me a one-liner, but go ahead.
I think that the increase in the minimum wage over the past 2 years is good. However, I do think that it has some downsides in the short term as well, but it has more positive impacts in the long term.
Okay.
Well, I will give my perspective on the minimum wage. Well, the public sector workers, they would benefit the most from it. So persons from CPEP, URP, I know 10,000 persons from CPEP would benefit. from ERP 6,200, and from MTS 5,100 persons will benefit. So while it is a good in terms of those public sector workers will benefit, it says something about our economy. I mean, if so much, according to the Trinidad and Tobago Central Statistics, 16% of Trinidad and Tobago workforce actually works for minimum wage, and not many people would know that. So it says that the government needs to try to create more jobs so that persons would be less reliant on the minimum wage.
You're touching on an area there, and now I really want to ask, is government the only person that should be able to employ? But I would allow somebody else to go ahead.
Okay, so I believe that the increase is a good thing. However, it could force the private sector to also increase their minimum wage
True.
to keep workers.
Yes, good.
I would say that by increasing the minimum wage, it would benefit a lot of persons, like Hannah said, in the public sector by improving the standard of living. Statistics would have shown that they would now receive an additional $500 tax-free income, and this might help in alleviating financial strain. However, I believe that although this may be the case, it has some downfalls in the future.
I believe that the increase for the public sector would draw workers away from the private sector, hence making the public sector a more saturated sector.
All right, thank you. So, building on what you all just said, my next question is, what impact would a higher increase in the minimum wage have on the businesses? I know Kanisha just said that it would draw workers away from the private sector into the public sector. Are there any other impacts that you all could see happening?
I would say in the business sector, this would put businesses under a financial strain where they would be forced to cut costs, even let go employees, which would increase the unemployment rate. They would now have to cut down on hours, in a worst case scenario, even shut down. Additionally, if minimum wage increases, prices will have to increase to facilitate the additional expenses, which would contribute to inflation.
Thank you. Anyone else?
I share the same views with Shanique here. Yes, because I do believe that the increase in the minimum wage in the public sector, if it impacts the minimum wage in the private sector, the businesses could also increase their costs in order to maintain supporting the persons who work in the private sector, which impacts inflation.
Right, and that is also true because remember last year minimum wage was increased by $3 per hour. So I know one of the points that the government made was that it's kind of difficult. We just increased it by $3 per hour. So then to force the private sector, now they could voluntarily do it, but then to force them again, we'll be putting them under pressure of where people could actually go on the breadline. Prices could significantly increase, and so on as the case may be. Right. So, Jamal, you are not a Trinidadian, a Trinbagonian, no Sarita, right?
Yeah.
How is the minimum wage in Guyana, where you are from?
Where I'm from, the minimum wage is roughly, I'll have to give it in US dollars because if I say it in Guyanese currency,
like
it will sound like a lot. But it's roughly around 300 US dollars.
300 US?
Yes, per month.
Per month?
Yes. So the different Caribbean countries, they give the payments differently. So some persons work per hour, some per week, and so in Guyana, it's the minimum wage is more or less a monthly kind of rate.
So basically, it's around that $2,000. Say.
Well, so that would be that 300. Sorry, it would be around $1 US per hour.
$1 US per
yes.
hour.
Okay. So per month, it would be around 300.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And Sarita, what about Dominica?
The minimum wage in Dominica, it ranges from about $7.50 EC to $8 EC. In TT, that is about $18 to $20 and just a little cents. So that being said, the minimum wage in Trinidad is somewhat slightly higher than in Dominica. As compared to...
Go ahead.
Yeah, as compared to, other countries, there are some neighboring countries that the minimum wage in Trinidad is also higher than, like Jamaica, Antigua and Barbuda. However, my perspective is that the increase in the minimum wage, I believe that it could also attract outsiders, which is like, I think that people in the Caribbean, everybody looks to make money. So people from the outskirts in neighboring countries who make a lower minimum wage would obviously want to come to Trinidad at some point in time.
I mean, that's a point, right? And sometimes Trinidad and Tobago personal citizenry, we probably don't understand how it is on the outside as well, to any benefits that we may also receive. I would just like to welcome Anatalia. Anatalia is a representative from the South Campus who is joining us. So we especially would like to welcome her, make her feel welcome, coming from San Fernando to be with us here today.
Okay, so we spoke about minimum wage. So Eve, we heard that the government is allocating a lot of funding to purchase an additional 2,000 police vehicles to aid in the fight towards crime. Do you see this as being helpful in any way?
My answer would be yes. Providing more vehicles would be helpful in fighting crime. But with these new vehicles must also come new strategies. We must be able to see a greater police presence within the communities. Also, in terms of maintenance of the vehicles, in an article, Mr. Hines stated that more than 60% of the TTPS fleet is non-functional. Another indicates that hundreds of police vehicles are abandoned and left to rust. So my question is, are these new police vehicles going to be abandoned and left to rust?
All right, point taken. Point really taken. I was watching Beyond the Tape last week, Beyond the Tape on TV6, and they actually showed an old police vehicle, and they were wondering whether this is a legit police vehicle because the vehicle was really old. And I was saying, they actually end up verifying. So the officer that was there will have messaged his sources and then come back and say, well, thus far we have confirmed that it is a vehicle licensed to the Ministry of National Security. And I was wondering, but wait, out of all the vehicles people have smashed up, out of all that has changed, this vehicle, this old vehicle that probably is more than 20 years old, actually made it through, right? So yes. So again, Eve, based on the budget, what initiatives have been discussed to help the country's challenging crime problem? So yes, vehicles was one. They proposed 2,000 vehicles, but what else was there that was really brought out within the budget in terms of what the government could do with regards to crime?
Okay, so there were a number of things that were mentioned, but what really stood out to me were enhanced border control and protection, social programs aimed to reduce criminal gang violence, and enhance cyber security.
All right, good.
Okay, Eve. In addition to what you've shared before, in terms of the vehicles and the crime problems, the minister has also indicated that sporting equipment and CCTV cameras will be tax-free in terms of importation. So what impact, can this tax levy have on crime, if it will have any impact at all?
Okay, I think that by removing taxes from sporting equipment will, encourage productivity among the citizens, probably make them motivated to practice healthier lifestyles and, turn away from the crime. And in terms of the CCTV cameras, yes, it won't help to stop crime, but it will have a contribution. For instance, we could get justice. It might motivate persons to, turn away from the crime and try to do something a bit more productive with their lives, seeing that they are monitored and, more eyes are on them, in my opinion.
Understood. Okay. Lady Serenity. So the government is planning to lease or to sell the Magdalena Grand Hotel and build a Marriott branded hotel, as well as building a new 5-star hotel for Tobago, completing the airport and all of those other things. So what impact do you see this proposal in the budget having on the tourism industry?
Okay. I believe that the government's plans could cause an increase in Tobago's economy. However, there are issues that need to be addressed first.
Okay.
The government spends more than they earn in taxes, which means that they need to focus on economic activities to improve economic growth. While 70% of the labor force in Tobago is employed by the THA, that emphasizes that they need to focus on economic growth, because as of right now, they rely too much on low-wage jobs, limiting economic activities. So, while the introduction of a well-known hotel brand, aka the Marriott Hotel, is a good thing, what makes Tobago different from any other Caribbean island? For instance, Jamaica has many Marriott hotels, and despite their high crime rate, they saw 4.1 million tourists last year. So, yeah, that is an important thing to study. Tobago needs to focus on differentiation and competitive advantage. And additionally, tourists who visit the Caribbean, they come for the culture and the experience. So some can argue that smaller hotels could cause more attraction to Tobago.
Understood. So do you think that the crime situation can also have an impact on Tobago's tourism?
Definitely. This year, Trinidad and Tobago has seen a significant increase in homicides. As of August 31st, there were 418 homicides, which can deter tourists from visiting Tobago.
Okay.
Yes, we have actually crossed the 500 mark now. And Tobago has been making record number of figures for regards to murders right now as well. So continuing Tobago, Lady Serenity, Tobago has received an increase of 22.756 million within the 2024-2025 budget than as compared to last year's budget, which in itself was 64.2 million more than they got the year before. Right? The total allocation that they received was $2.599 billion. It is more than any recent PNM-led THA has received. Is it enough for Tobago? And what do you expect from the THA?
While this is one of the highest budget allocations, representing 4.35% of the national budget, it still fell short of the 3.956 million that the Assembly requested. So 91% of the 2.599 billion allocated to Tobago is used for recurrent expenditures, wages and salaries. So although this is an increase from previous years, more funding is needed to advance critical projects in Tobago. Even the Chief Secretary, Fali Augustine, expressed that Tobago is always given less and expected to do more with it. So,
but they got more.
They got more this year. Yes, but
Got more this year, they got more last year.
right. But however, the THA, the government is spending majority of the funds allocated to the THA outside of the budget. So I believe that the THA and the government need to work together because, in fact, Tobago's economy today looks like what Trinidad's economy looked like in 1962. So imagine a few years ago when the Red House was reconstructed, that project alone cost $441 million. Yet year by year, the THA is given between 200 and 300 million to provide for developmental expenditure for over 60,000 persons. That is not enough. I do not believe so. I believe they need to work together and provide more funding so that there could actually be an increase and growth in Tobago.
All right. I know a lot of people may argue that everybody don't get that. I could hear some ministers saying Tobago say they get, and a minister might say, but I ain't get enough either. Shanique.
All right, Shanique. So the Minister of Finance mentioned that they are still considering the RIC report and that a rate increase is still on the table for electricity and water. So in your view, how likely is it that a rate increase will come within the coming year, seeing that we are going into the election season and it has not been decided or even implemented as yet? How likely is it that we will get a rate increase, in your view?
So looking at the RIC report, I observed the different reasons behind it would have asked for the rate increase, such as to cover operation costs and capital expenditure related to power production under the TNTEC aspect, and I deem it as necessary. Also in relation to WASA as well, to cover different manufacturing costs, I think it's necessary, but I think it won't be likely to happen. Reason being, we are approaching an election year, and this could affect voter support and dissatisfaction amongst the public. So I think that the likelihood of it happening is possible, yes. However, it may be delayed until after the election.
Understood. So, Kanisha, what provisions are there in the budget aimed at advancing renewable energy integration? So some of the points that we saw were removal of taxes on the charging ports for electric vehicles, which we are seeing an increasing number of in Trinidad and Tobago. No taxes on solar importation and all of those types of stuff. So what provisions are there being made?
So the budget also proposes tax incentives for businesses and households that invest in renewable energy systems. Also, there would be exemptions on import duties, meaning a reduction or waived import duties on renewable equipment such as solar paneling and wind turbines. Additionally, there would be specific budgetary allocations for the development of large-scale renewable energy products, including solar farms, wind energy, and biomass facilities.
All right. And how do you see that might help out Trinidad and Tobago? What benefit do you think it might give to Trinidad and Tobago?
I see as though, say we go towards a more renewable energy system, I feel like we could use so a lot of the oil and gas production goes into electricity. So if we use that and use it and put it into ammonia or methanol and that production, we could sell it and make more forex, thereby benefiting the economy.
All right, good. Further, we did not see an increase in fuel prices. I know that that's something, does make some people heart want to skip when they're coming around to budget, whether fuel would increase. No, we didn't see an increase in fuel this time. We have noted that the budget is pegged at US $77.80 per barrel, while the 2023-2024 budget was pegged at $85 US per barrel, which means that we are believing that we're going to get less money. We're projecting to receive less money, right? And if I just throw back a talk by Tobago, we're projecting to get less money, but we are still giving Tobago more. Right, so we're projecting to get less, and natural gas price assumption will be 3.59 US MMBTU as compared to $5 US last year. Former Energy Minister, Mr. Kevin Ramnarayan, he was quoting page 38 of the Central Bank's Economic Bulletin. He said that he believes that Tobago, we are probably paying a gas tax at the moment. He believes that we are not probably being subsidized. And he said that according to the Economic Bulletin for July, from the Central Bank for July 2024, it notes that there were no fuel subsidy payments for the first 9 months of the fiscal year 2023-2024. What has your research shown on this? Do you think we are paying a fuel tax?
Well, the lack of subsidies being paid would fall in line with what Mr. Ramnarayan said about possibly paying a fuel tax. And the government has been moving away from paying subsidies because research from the IMF has shown that fuel subsidies benefit richer households more than the poor households. And I believe the money saved on subsidies can be put towards paving roads or even purchasing more PTSC buses, and that would help to mitigate some of the burden we experienced from the previous budgets where they raised the prices on fuel.
No, I want to throw another question at you if I could. You know, we are Trinidad and Tobago. We are known to be an oil nation, oil and gas nation. Shouldn't the citizenry of Trinidad and Tobago be able to benefit from that resource of oil and gas that we have, and probably by having lower prices?
I mean, we should be able to benefit from it, but I find we should also look towards newer resources. That is why I believe this budget does a good job at with the initiatives to promote renewable energy.
All right, good, nice.
So from looking at the budget, we saw that health and education received a massive share of the budget this year. So, Natalia, we heard that you're a health employee. So as a health employee, what are your expectations for how this money will be spent? And what would you like to see for your nation, Trinidad and Tobago, with regards to the health sector?
Well, as you stated, as someone who works in the hospital, I firstly think that it should be spent on pandemic emergency, such as present and preparation for those in the future. You know, and it will be spent on, it will be able to efficiently carry the economy, and it won't cripple the economy in that state. So it will be spent on vaccines, medication, as well as little, you know, like tanks, oxygen tanks and stuff that will facilitate and help the patients along that illness. Secondly, I would like it to be spent on non-communicable diseases. Some of you might not know that some diseases such as diabetes and endocrine, the medication are not found in the hospitals or even on CDAP. So therefore, patients need to go out and buy, which will cost a lot.
It does.
And thirdly, it should be spent on getting new staff. We have lost a lot of nurses during the COVID period, and a lot of us do not know, but we lost a lot of doctors as well. But right now, what we are doing is recycling staff. So we have more retirees returning. So we need to pay them off, as well as paying off gratuities and getting new staff.
When you said we lost a lot of staff, are you referring to through debt or through persons receiving jobs otherwise?
Both.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right, so both. Hannah, so you're going to give me a little bit of information on education. So it was you and health that received the lion's share of the budget. A quote from the budget reads, Madam Speaker, the GATE program is expected to undergo several enhancements during the fourth quarter of 2024. These would include assessing approved students' ability to contribute to tuition costs. What changes do you foresee, or what do you hope to see coming with regards to GATE in this fiscal year? And you said fourth quarter of this year, right? So we're expecting to be hearing something about that any time now.
Well, the GATE program, as many may know, it will affect a lot of citizens of Trinidad and Tobago. So those who may not know, the GATE program actually, to get to funding from the program, you have to go through a means test. It is based on your household income as long as it's under $10,000. So what I think some minor restructuring the program should undergo is definitely the Minister of Finance to consider not only focusing on a means test for household income, but for students who are paying loans. I mean, the family size of these students, not everybody, even though they're making probably like $10,000, they probably have a large family, so they need to look at that, as well as medical expenses. Some students may be paying off medical expenses. So these are the minor restructuring that I hope that the GATE program should undergo. And I definitely think for postgraduate students, I mean, a lot of students stop at undergraduate degrees. So GATE could probably consider bringing back tuition funding for postgrad studies. However, offer a 50% funding so that students would technically be able, once they pass the means test, they would be able to apply for funding.
All right, good. No, I know you said 10,000, but it's below 10,000 is 100%, but above
Correct.
it, you know, you still could receive funding.
I agree with what Hannah said in relation to the means test, for the mere
Sure.
fact that the means test, to me, solely analyzes the person's income, but not the expenses.
Correct.
Because usually on the pay slip, you would see the different expenses, who would pay mortgages, health charge, and tips. And sometimes the bigger the income, the larger the deductions, because they do it by a percentage. So I think that it should not just be how much the person making, but to take into account the expenses, because some persons may have big jobs, but like Hannah said, they have big families, they have bills to pay, and some are sending children to school. So I think that it should not just be the amount they're making.
Correct.
And just to add to that as well, just to add to that slightly, and the program should focus on skills that will help us in the future. I know we are aiming for a more digitalized society, so fund programs where you need AI or, you know, to get the economy and Trinidad and Tobago up to date.
Right, but I didn't going back to like what Shanique was saying, even what you said as well too. That is with regards to, right, slipped me. With regards to changes and the amount of family members that may be within a family. So right now, it is anybody, well, if your family is making less than $10,000, then you could get 100% funding. If it's just above that and up to 20, you get 75. And then above that is
25.
50, right? So sometimes you may have 2 or 3 students within one family going and attending university. So even though you know it may be above the 10,000, so let's say you make the family is making $12,000 or $13,000, but you may have 2 or 3 students attending university and not just one student, and so now you be in a 75% bracket. But then it becomes hard on the family. So just adding back to what you were saying there.
Okay, so sticking on education, Hannah, it has been highlighted within the news recently that a lot of the infrastructure in our schools is very poor. As a matter of fact, up to recently, a school had to be closed down due to the sewage system for about a week. So we saw that education has been allocated $7 billion within this budget for this period. Do you see infrastructure challenges being improved within the upcoming year?
Yes, and the reason I say that is because there are schools, like you mentioned, that need emergency funding. They need repairs, they need maintenance, etc. I think you were probably referring to Mount Hope Secondary. Schools such as like St. George's College and San Fernando Secondary School, they also need emergency funding to do repairs. So I think that the Minister of Education should consider putting a large portion of the $7.5 billion allocated for education towards infrastructure, and that would be emergency funding for schools that need repairs firstly, and after handling the schools that need one or two minor adjustments or rebates.
And in addition to that, what do you think should be the qualification process in terms of giving schools emergency funding? What should be the necessities?
I definitely think that it could come to whereas the minister could visit these schools and assess based on how they're looking, maybe there's cracks in the ground or the buildings are falling apart. These evidence would clearly tell that, hey, the school needs emergency funding.
Understood.
Yeah.
Final question to you, Hannah. You know, education is a kind of a big area. What are your thoughts on initiatives mentioned within the budget, with more so in regards to, let's say we have, for example, CSEC remedial mathematics classes, right? We had in Trinidad and Tobago 42% of students passed in mathematics, and so the government decides, you know what, we're going to have some CSEC remedial mathematics classes to help students improve. Talk to me. Or and on other contributions for other initiatives mentioned.
Well, if we look at the statistics this year, the CSEC pass rates for math has been the lowest. So I definitely think that, and I believe it was in 26 schools that were affected who did not pass math. So as it relates to the CSEC remedial classes, the students may be willing, however, to attend these classes. However, if they feel demotivated by their failures, maybe they say to themselves, oh, I didn't pass maths, what am I going to do? So in conjunction with the classes, offer counseling services to help these students, because you have to look at the root of the problem. Why are they failing? Maybe they need some advice, some counseling to de-stress themselves to perform better. So once this counseling services will make the students feel supported and more willing to take up the government's initiative of the CSEC remedial classes.
All right, good. Thank you very much. So coming back to Jamal and Sarita now. So we had 42% of students pass in mathematics. What takes place within your country? And is the government, depends on how they are performing, is the government doing something or trying to implement something to help students be able to pass?
So in Guyana, what I know for sure is that there are strides to improve the percentage, the pass rate percentage in Guyana as it relates to mathematics. This year, the CSEC students are toward a 1% pass rate, similar to that of last year. In previous years, the number was 48%, but that was given the fact that there was some issue surrounding papers being leaked or whatever the case is. Now, what I know the government has sought to do is to budget with considerations to have some mathematics, what do they call it, tools provided for students, because there are factors, there are negative factors that influence the performance rate. One, given the evidential fact that the students that are now writing, might I dare say, are the COVID, we call them the COVID babies. So that's one main area that has affected their performance, the attention, and all these different things. But they've implemented distribution of geometry sets, providing laptops and so forth for families who aren't able to access proper internet and all these different things. They're seeking to have the internet placed in central locations in communities so that families could benefit from it. And so these are some of the strides that the government of Guyana has taken towards aiding the students in bettering themselves as it relates to mathematics. I think also, what I know is that they're providing some practice papers for them, providing it for the students so that they can practice.
Thank you. Okay. Sarita?
All right. So in Dominica, the math CXC pass rate was 38%, which was, very close to the regional average pass rate of 36%. And it just shows that a lot of students suffer or they struggle with mathematics in Dominica. So some of the implementations that the government have initiated, they implemented after school classes as well as summer classes for the students struggling in mathematics. Peer teaching programs have also been implemented where the students who are stronger in mathematics get to assist their peers. The government has also encouraged that the use of technology be more enforced, where students will have learning more easier access to online learning platforms. And yes, they are also training the teachers to have more modern teaching methods implemented as well.
Okay, thank you. So we see that the other countries are doing things to improve the results as well.
One of the things I wanted to add all that I like from what Sarita said is that looking at modern teaching techniques for teachers, because I do not know what about our audience or even about the panel members, but I think that having a good maths teacher also helps contribute to student success within mathematics, right? I mean, I haven't done a survey or to do the actual research on it, but that's my theory. Because I mean, I have seen persons who generally could do maths good, but didn't get a good teacher, and they began to suffer in terms of the mathematics and them understanding mathematics. And so I think that part of it would be that those strategies was getting good teachers who could teach it properly.
But to add to what you just mentioned, I also think that if more parents encourage their students as well, is very important, because with mathematics there is a general negative impact on it where students believe that I can't pass maths, it's just a general thing. But if more parents encourage their students to take those classes seriously, then that could also be an impact.
Very true, very true. So Shanique, we now have to pay property tax. Property tax is a big topic. No, well, not me. I don't own a property to pay property tax. But citizens have to pay property tax. It's a big topic now after the budget. So how do you see this impacting the citizens of the country?
So many persons would see this being an additional expense or like a bill, but from my perspective, I think the implementation of property tax could have a positive impact on citizens, as this now provides the government with a new and sustainable stream of income, or you could say revenue. So now that this revenue would be allocated to municipalities, communities will now benefit by maintenance of drainage, maintenance of road, increased public health facilities, and so forth. So I think it would work out in the long run as well as in the short run.
All right, good. I know, sometimes people forget as well too that property tax is a tax that generally every country has, right? For those who are young, it's a tax that we had before. We used to call it land and building tax. But it was repealed back in 2010 to make way for the property tax, which was seen to be a little bit more equitable, aka also increasing the amount that we'll have to pay. But there were some stores changing governments who decided, we don't want any tax, and then this government coming back, you have to pay the tax, and so on as the case may be, right? So it has been implemented now, and I know one of the points that the government made is that it's going to go back to the corporations to do just what Shanique was mentioning, helping contribute to road, drains, etc. So we're hoping, and we hope that as a country and as citizens, we could hold the government accountable that, hey, you all said you're going to use the money for this. We would like to see some form of improvements coming. So we hope that we would have had someone here who would have responded to some questions on agriculture. But despite that, we will note that we have a large food import bill here in Trinidad and Tobago. For 2022, it was $7.3 billion. for 2022, 7.3 billion. It dropped a little bit in 2023 to 7.2 billion. I know that the government, among what they tried was putting taxes on some of the foreign foods, the cereals, foreign fruits, and saying to try to use local foods. Right? I know that that was among some of the strategies that they tried to do. But I said, let me ask Jamal and Sarita, what is the food import bill like within their countries, within your territory? Do you find people eating local? Are they eating a lot of the foreign foods as well? Share with us.
Strangely enough, Guyana is known for its agriculture, nature, and they have a very large food import bill. So the bill actually is about $250 million.
In Guyanese?
Guyanese dollars. Yeah.
give us an average US what it is.
For the mathematicians in the house, you just divide it by 200 and you'd get that figure in US. But it's pretty high given the agricultural nature of the country. And the government has taken strides to encourage the nationals to plant, may benefit from homegrown food. But I know for a fact that Guyana, yes, we do eat naturally. There's a wide range of fruits and vegetables at very cheap prices, I must say, compared to Trinidad and Tobago. You'd come to Trinidad and you're encouraged to feast on what the land feasts on. Where there's some gyros or some peacock, but nonetheless, I must say that compared to Trinidad and Tobago, there's a wide range of a variety of fruits and vegetables to choose from and benefit from in Guyana as opposed to Trinidad. And so I would say that the bill would be higher in Trinidad given the cuisine, the preference that people have as it relates to what they'd like. There's a high bill in Guyana too because there's also different foods and snacks and all these different things that some persons prefer to have. And, it's kind of like saying they would like to live a different lifestyle. And so that contributes to the high bill. But the government is taking strides to encourage, rather discourage the high bill and encourage persons to plant and benefit from.
All right, good. Thank you. Sarita?
All right. In Dominica, the food import bill, well, the most recent stat they had was in 2021, where the import bill was actually $161 million. And that was
Okay.
No, go ahead.
You go ahead. I was just verifying that's EC.
Right. Yes, an EC. Yes. So that was a result as of the natural disasters that occurred between in 2017 and so on. So we had to be importing a lot of our goods, right? So the agricultural sector took a hit, and but right now, the government has implemented different incentives and for farmers to produce more local goods, right? So in comparison to Trinidad, Trinidad has a way higher food import bill which ranges now from 7.2 billion to 7.3 billion. And I mean, that is because you'll import a lot of processed goods as well as have a lot of fast food as well. Right, so in Dominica, the diet is healthier right now because farming is practiced in rural areas as well as, private backyard farming for the locals. People planting their short-term crops in their backyards, things that they would need for like everyday use, such as cucumbers, tomatoes, those kind of things.
Yes.
And Now, on the other hand, Trinidad, you all eat a lot of fast food and processed food, and that means that your in diet is not as healthy as in Dominica, and you all have some concerns with the non-communicable diseases such as hypertension and diabetes. And in Dominica, we don't have much of that, but we have some of it, but it's not in excess because of our agricultural based background in our diets.
All right, good. Thank you all very much. Now, we wanted to take a question or two from the audience. Anybody within the audience would like to ask a question? No one would like to ask a question of the panel? All right. Okay, right.
Yeah, good afternoon. It's a great topic. I was wondering, though, I noticed that in terms of the mathematics issues, what we're looking at is the students and their performance. The governments have not necessarily looked at their teaching methodologies. I remember there are countries, and Mr. Hislop could bear me out on this. We did send him, I think, at one time, USC sent him to Singapore, I think, learn about Singaporean math. So I'm wondering when and why would the governments be looking at not the teaching and the results, but the strategies and methodologies, not just teachers, and I know about that teaching methodologies for mathematics. That's just my concern, yeah.
And just to respond to your statement, I absolutely agree. I think that the government, the curriculum on a whole needs restructuring and improvement, because if it is we measure the statistics and the data over the past years, we could see that's definitely a trend and a decline somewhere. So if it is the government could look at, okay, where are we falling short, especially in the area of mathematics? They could improve it so that the CSEC pass rates could improve, and not just in Trinidad and Tobago, but the entire Caribbean region.
All right, good. And I know that even while we were speaking before on education, I know that Sarita was bringing out the point as well, that back home, what they're also looking at would be the instruction and, giving modern techniques for teaching and these different strategies, which we're also hearing here. And I believe that that could also be implemented here in Trinidad and Tobago for being able to help students learn maths. It should be a role that, should be played as
Correct.
well.
I have another question.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
I do not know much about Trini economy, but I would like to ask a question. You indicated that there would be an increase in the minimum wage.
Correct. For the public
However,
sector.
there is also taxing on land and building. So what would be the effect of the increase in minimum wage if the government will take it back in tax on land and buildings? Thank you.
Are we looking at the latter part? Is it light and buildings you're saying?
Land.
Land and building.
Yes.
Or property.
Property.
Just to be clear, time.
Panel?
We didn't get the question clear still, though. Is it that you're saying raising electricity and raising property tax? I didn't get the question clear.
No. The government is planning to give an increase in minimum wage, right?
For public sectors, yes.
For public sector, yes. However, the same government is also planning to have property tax.
Yes.
Right? So what is the effect? What would it be by increasing minimum wage? However, having property, what would be the effect? What is,
Oh, okay, I got you now. So what you're saying is that, so property taxes is coming back into effect now, and the public sector government wage is going up. So in other words, it's that it may have a net effect in terms of that it may just work itself back out, that what you're getting as an increase, you might be paying for your property. Right. Yes, and it may have some change within it too. Because the property tax, it really does depend on your house and the size of house. And so I may think that if it is that you're working for minimum wage, it may be that you may not have a massive house that you have to pay a large property tax bill for. I could say my property tax I paid was about $300 and some for my home. So, and if that's my home, yeah, maybe, so it may work out, and they may still have some change left over still from their increase that they would have received. If we have no more questions, okay, I'm seeing one more hand. This will be the last hand we take. Thank you.
Yes, my question is for Mr. Pompey. He mentioned that in Guyana, the maths pass rate is about 31%, correct? I know usually in Guyanese news, you see during CXC results time, one student with all 20-something passes, they usually, tend to top. So I'm wondering if one student, so many students could be having over 15 CXC subjects. How is it that the maths results still so poor?
Well, the percentage is not just tabulated based on the performance of one or two students or within one particular school. So you look at the overall nation, the performances we have 10 administrative regions. One of the regions would have more schools as opposed to the others. And so it's not a case where they come to a point where they say, all right, students that write 15 and 20 subjects, it could be like 5, 10, 15, maybe a little more. But that doesn't count for the overall passes in mathematics, because they do perform well in English, integrated science, social studies, all the other CSEC subjects. They have high pass rates. But the key thing that we're paying attention to for today was the mathematics passes, and currently students are struggling with mathematics in particular. While majority of them write 15 and 20, those are students who have proper access to proper study material. They're encouraged by their parents, and so they have no, I would say, pressure to perform well. But there are other students who aren't, I want to say, privileged enough to benefit from the encouragement and the resources that would encourage them to do and perform as well as the others in mathematics. And thank you.
All right, good. Thank you. We thank our audience for participating. We thank our panel members for being here, being able to answer the questions, being able to discuss. And I hand over to Ms. Diosingatu, who will do the official vote of thanks.
What an excellent presentation, a breakdown of the budget. These students took time out from the mid-semester break to actually prepare for this budget discussion. So thank you so much for all your preparation, for all your hard work. Thank you so much. I would like to also thank our hosts who facilitated this discussion. Excellent job. Thank you. I would like to thank Ms. Seeley, the spiritual department, for allowing the School of Business for this time to deliver the discussion of budget. I would like to thank also the Accounting and Finance Department, Dwayne, Ms. Winchester, Dr. Jeremiah Eaton, and Natalia Francois for help in preparing the students. I would like to also thank everybody who's here. You took time out, you stayed, you listened, you asked a question. Thank you so much.
How quickly time runs when you're having a good time. We've had a great presentation by a galaxy of students who've well researched their various topics. And for a moment, it looked like we were relaxed and just taking in there whatever the students were giving us. When it came to question and answer, we didn't get no hands up, but suddenly, it's like everybody had a question to ask, which shows that we've been very, very involved in what the students have presented. So the students have touched so many topics from Trinidad and Tobago. They need to get more. In economics, we always want more, a little bit more of the good thing than less. We've spoken about whatever's been allocated to Tobago is not enough, acceptable, true. We also heard about crime, how the government has allocated so much, 2,000 vehicles to fight crime, CCTV. They spoke about environmental change, the impact, and a whole number of issues. But speaking about crime, I want to quickly remind all of us that every criminal comes from a family. So while the government spends a lot of money after the crime, I think more money should also be spent in keeping the family together. If we keep the family structure together, then we'll spend less on fighting crime. It happened that we didn't get somebody to speak about agriculture, but the host did speak about that because agriculture is a subject after my heart. Trinidad and Tobago has a vast land. We may think we are small. Yes, we are. But Trinidad and Tobago is 1/7 the size of Singapore. And Singapore's GDP per capita is about 84,000 per capita. And Trinidad and Tobago is around 24,000, 25,000. So there's still a lot we can do because we have the resources. So now that we've been fed by the students, let's have a word of prayer. Let's pray. Our Heavenly Father, we want to thank you, Lord, for the blessings of life that you've given us. We want to thank you for the wisdom that you've given all the students who have presented, and even those who are here as audience, what we've learned today. We thank you. As we're going to depart from here, Father, may you not depart from us. Continue, Father, to abide with us, lead us, and teach us what we need to know. And forgive us, Father, wherever we've gone wrong. Bless today, oh Father, and bless everyone who is here. We pray in Jesus' holy name. Amen.